everyone. Welcome to the show. Oh, man, almost was no show. There was almost no show today, but I did finally get to hook up with Christian Finnegan. It's the Friday show. I don't do the news, and I usually have two guests, but today was a crazy day for me because after going to pick up my daughter from camp earlier this week when she had a fever, I had to bring her back up. This morning she woke up and said, I'm ready to go back. So I had three guests that I was going to talk to today. I had to reschedule them all. The only Christian could fit back in. And so that's what I've got for you today. A, 35-minute conversation with Christian Finnegan here on the Friday show. Everybody always loves when we end the week with Christian. Loves when Christian joins us. Monday, I'll be introducing a new regular guest. Mara Quint is going to be now joining me on Monday. So Finnegan Fridays and Mara Mondays, everybody. I hope that makes you happy. I mentioned it last night at the Hangout, and everybody got really excited about her being a regular guest as well. I'm trying to put some of this new ad revenue to work to pay these guys to join me on a regular basis. And so that is the deal. That is some good news. I'm really excited about that. But I am absolutely spent, exhausted from this week. It's been a hard one. I hope it has been okay for you, and I really appreciate you supporting me. Monday night, I will be in Boston with J.L. Covan. Still a few tickets available, he told me today. We talked today, and so that's City Winery in Boston. There's links to buy them in the show notes for today's show, and I hope to see you there. If you're in or around the Boston area, tell your friends. All right, let me just bring on Christian right now. He is one of my favorite comedians. Check him out at ChristianFinnegan.com. He's on Twitter at ChristFinnegan. And always happy when he joins me. And that's what I got for you today, my conversation with Christian Finnegan. I hope that's okay with you. I really appreciate your support. Let's do it right now. All right, there he is, ladies and gentlemen. Christian Finnegan joining me, and let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Seems like you were a guest on a different podcast this week, it seems.
Was I? That's a good question.
Yeah, it was a very funny appearance. You shared it on Twitter, and
yes, I did. I didn't record it. I recorded it a few weeks ago, but it aired. Okay. It dropped, as the kids are no longer saying.
Well, it was very funny, and but
thank you.
But a lot of people were upset about the exclusivity that I told them you had with this podcast.
I'm super sorry about that. It will never happen again.
They're like, he's cheating on you.
Listen, I am perfectly fine to go back to like a patronage system like they had in the Renaissance, where just basically you give me some money and you own me and all my creative endeavors.
Well, isn't that what a development deal was back in the day? Didn't networks do that and still do that?
I think they still do. I mean, a lot of you get overall deals, but more for like writers and stuff. But yeah, it used to be actors. You'd be under contract to MGM or whatever, and you'd have, you would just be plugged into their various pictures. Right. But I think, with writers and producers, I think it still kind of works that way. But I'm talking about just in general, just like individual artists, and I'm not even talking about companies. Like you, Pete, could literally own me for a surprisingly low price.
Yeah. What is the price?
$50 and a Quiznos gift card. Now I just have to find a Quiznos that's still
Quiznos.
Open.
I haven't seen a Quiznos in a while, but I do feel like they were the originator of toasting the bread.
It was probably, looking back, it was probably not the wisest thing to hang your entire brand identity on. We have a toaster, because it's a very duplicable thing.
Yeah.
And then 5 weeks later, Subway's like, yeah, we also have a toaster now.
Subway, like 5 weeks later, we can toast bread. What do you mean?
It was like they acted like they had, discovered cold fusion. It's a toaster, dude.
Speaking of which, I just told you, I think right before I hit record, that I used being on the road all day as an excuse for eating fast food, and then that's a thing that's called car rules. Is that what you said?
Yeah, car rules, road rules, whatever. But I mean, in travel rules in general, I have the same general policy for airports, and somehow you can convince your brain that there are no other options, and oftentimes there aren't.
Right.
A lot of times when you go to those rest stops, there really aren't any good options.
I try to justify it. Usually if it's a McDonald's or a Burger King, I try to justify by getting chicken. Like that's somehow better. And
it's not. I mean, if you look at the calorie content, it's not better. Oftentimes it's worse.
Well, I feel like it's better, like for the planet or for just health wise, because I feel like the meat is more likely to have like a disease in it than the chicken. But even both of those are both stupid too. It's all stupid. But so I go in to the Burger King in the New York State Thruway, and I walk in, and there's a sign, a handwritten sign on the plexiglass, the COVID plexiglass between me and the 60-year-old, very angry cash register lady. And I go, it said handwritten, it said no original chicken sandwiches. So I said to her, I go, does that mean there's no chicken sandwiches at all? And the woman took the handwritten sign off that was held up by one piece of Scotch tape, and she moved it right into my line of sight and stuck it back up. I was so
I can
shocked.
see that from her point of view, I guess. I mean, because she knows that is the only chicken sandwich they sell, I guess. But you don't know that. Like, are you saying that the item known as the original chicken sandwich is out, but that there are other chicken sandwiches for sale? That
was what I was getting at. But I was so shocked and offended, yet also impressed that I was like, Whopper, please. I was so like, she put it right in between us, in front of my face. No chicken sandwiches. And I was like, wow, excuse me. Okay, fine.
When you say original chicken sandwich, are you saying that these sandwiches were made when you first opened, that they were the original chicken sandwiches?
OG.
Or are you saying that they're so unique, or that they're so idiosyncratic that they're truly original chicken sandwiches? In fact, they're so original, it's actually pork.
She wasn't going to elaborate at all. She was just going to just move the sign into my face. She's like, this is what I'm saying. Sign in your face, dummy.
I like a good deadpan.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, you've made some healthy choices according to your social media. You worked out this week. It's the first time since your heart surgery.
I exercised once. Yes, I attempted something resembling a cardio type thing, and I did not die. So
great.
I felt creaky and fat and out of shape and all of those things, but health wise, I felt like it was fine. Like I definitely did like the wussy version of what I would have been doing 6 months ago, but yeah, I did Tai Bo. I think I probably talked about this on the podcast. Over the course of the pandemic. Well, for years when I've been upstate, up in the woods, and I would have to exercise, I would do Tai Bo, which was a fitness trend of like the late 90s, early 2000s. Billy Blanks. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
Huh?
I used to do a joke about Tai Bo. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's the punching, kicking to the beat sort of.
My joke was about it was just not a good form of self-defense.
No, although I do sometimes feel like if push came to shove, I would have the vague sense of how a combination would go. I mean, I don't know if I would be like dancing and bouncing back and forth while I did it, but no. Did you know Billy Blanks was a B-level action star before he was? Huh. Yeah, back when my best friend and I lived together, and we would rent bad movies, like you do when you're in your 20s and dudes living alone in an apartment. Rent crappy horror movies or action movies or whatever. But yeah, he was kind of like 2 tiers down from Jean-Claude Van Damme, who was 2 tiers down from anybody respectable. So,
wow.
Yeah, but
so I did not know that. So you did like a tape. You watched it and.
Well, they're all on YouTube at this point, right. But there's like different ones. There's probably 7 or 8 that I do in rotation. The thing I like about them is that most of them don't require any equipment, and they don't require you to get down on the ground. Because sometimes when I'm working out upstate, it's outside and whatever. This is terribly interesting. I understand, but it's very silly. If you Google Tai Bo and watch a video, and then imagine me doing it. There's probably
that's the whole thing. I've been imagining you doing it ever since you've talked about it, and I really desperately want to see a video of it. If that's possible, I'll pay.
Yeah, there's one of them, the one that I started doing years ago. I've seen it so many times that I have it almost memorized. And there's one thing where you have to do this thing where you're kind of punching, like almost like when you see like a boxer punching somebody in the ribs really fast, like with both, they call it shoe shine. Oh, because it looks like you're shining shoes. Oh, and he must say, he says, I don't even know. I know for a fact. He says shoe shine 18 times. And he goes, shoe shine. Come on, faster, shoe shine. I've counted it. It's 18 times.
I used to teach like that kind of class at the gym when I first started out, and I didn't know how to match the right music, and I played Dave Matthews for my boxing class, and everybody, I walked the room. I walked the whole room. There was like 30 people at the beginning. I was subbing for some other fitness instructor, and everybody left. I'll never forget. I never walked the room as a comedian, but I did as a fitness teacher.
I mean, Dave Matthews is music to get punched to. That's right. Not to punch to.
I want to ask you how you feel about one small step for billionaires, one giant leap for billionaire kind. This week, Jeff Bezos flew into space with some of his friends in a cowboy hat and a dick-shaped rocket. And first and foremost, do you think that is there a limit on the dick rocket jokes that we can be made? Like, are they beneath you? Or
it's one of those things where immediately when it happened, I was like, I don't even need to make a joke about this because this is kind of entry level. I don't mean that I'm on some lofty perch, but it was kind of like when Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear, or like some things are just so silly on their face. It's like, all right, every single person, every funniest guy in the office is going to be making jokes about this. Yeah. And there's not going to be any blood left in that stone after about 5 minutes. Right. I did retweet somebody's joke who said something about that they wish that Georgia O'Keeffe worked for NASA or something, that it would look like a giant vagina floating into space or something like that. Got it. Which I thought was kind of funny. But, but no, for the most part, it's like, it is hilarious to think how many meetings must have gone on where they were like, all right, we understand the science of why you've designed the rocket this way, but does it have to look like a dick? Does it have to? And the conclusion they came to is yes, it does.
When I told my daughter, who has been in camp and hasn't seen any news or whatever, I go, did you hear about the rocket, the base, the billionaire went in space and the rocket looked like a dick? She's like, no, I didn't hear about it. I got to show it to her. And I showed it to her, and she didn't even miss a beat. She just goes, I would have thought I would have had more balls. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Not bad. It's not terrible. This week I've been like debating with a lot of people, including my dad came on the podcast, always a hit, about just the idea of somebody having $1 billion. I think it's grotesque. And I'm surprised that it's controversial, but I wrote that on Twitter, and a lot of people who I like, were like, all right, Stalin. I was like, really? Like, doesn't seem like a risky statement or belief.
No, it really is. And people don't understand, I don't think, how much income inequality has, even using term income inequality, it sounds like you're, on some sort of socialist street corner standing on a soapbox, but I don't think they understand the gap between the Bezoses of the world, of which there's only 15, and even what they would consider the super rich. Like, I don't think you can possibly fathom it. When you look at, the simple metrics, when they talk about what the average CEO used to make compared to the lowest wage worker, and how it's just, 1,000 times bigger now, that gap, you're going to get to the point where there are going to be individuals who have, I'm sure there's probably already a few billionaires who have more money than individual countries. There's got to be. Yeah, sure. That's what I'm talking. You're going to start having individuals that have more money than like first world nations. Yeah. And that's going to get fucking weird.
It's already super weird that and people are like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, listen, I don't have the tax policy or monetary policy to fix it. I'm just saying I find it disgusting that anybody would have someone. Nobody is worth.
And it's not, people act like it's some Gordian knot that nobody can, untie. You can. Maybe that's not that you can untie a Gordian knot. You cut it in half. But It's monopoly. It's antitrust. It's monopoly laws. There's no reason. If they could break up Ma Bell in the 80s, which pretty much dominated the telephone industry in the up until I was a little kid, they can break up Facebook. They can break up Amazon. Also, nobody will, because they're afraid of the billions of dollars coming back at them. But I mean, the thing I always bring up when people talk about Amazon, because most people I think love Amazon. And I get it, because you order something, it shows up the next day. I mean, what's not to love? But for the health of the country, I mean, we may have talked about this in the past, but you know what Amazon Basics are, right?
No.
Basically, people buy a stapler online and, on Amazon, and all these people buy staplers. Amazon collects all of that data. They see what kind of staplers sell. How heavy they are, the design, the brand, whatever, and then they create their own stapler under a brand name called Amazon Basics, and they sell it for less than the other staplers that there's from other companies that are buying online. And of course, these companies can't afford not to use Amazon. Of course they have to sell through Amazon, but slowly but surely they're taking over the market on everything of like non-glamour items, plastic cereal bowls, spoons, towel racks, just random things. And they're taking all of the data they get from us using Amazon to create cheaper products, and they can afford to do that because they're creating in such mass numbers. And eventually you're really talking about a world where there's one company. And I don't understand why people wouldn't find that to be a terrifying notion.
The other thing too is about inherited wealth. Like, I don't think you should be able to give your kids a huge amount of money untaxed. I mean, that to me is like, I wish I had the data. I'm sure somebody's done it, but to see how many billionaires and just inherited their wealth.
Oh, absolutely. And the amount of money that you get in that situation, but also the connections and you are fast tracked for success. I don't know about Jeff Bezos in particular, so I don't know about him, but so many of the super rich, it's not just the fact that they inherited millions of dollars. They also inherited an entire social strata, an entire culture of, of sort of buying into elite culture, which, and again, these things, I understand there's an American idea that, they say that every American thinks that he's just not rich yet. That I'm a billionaire in the making.
Right.
And so they feel like when you tax millionaires, you're taxing my future millions, which I think people really need to grow up and be a little more honest and just say, there have to be referees in this world. I don't think anybody, the Bucks won the NBA championship 2 nights ago. I don't think anybody would say that their victory was somehow tarnished by the presence of referees maintaining some sort of semblance of rules and order. And that's theoretically what we're paying our public servants to do, is to be the referees and to step in and to keep some level of competition. That's what the libertarians, they talk about the free market. And it's like, if the market is completely free, it will not be free for long, because eventually you will have an Amazon or another big company who will get such a market share that then it stops being a free market. Now you're just, it's just owned by one company as opposed to sort of administered by the government.
Yeah.
I don't know. Slightly.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Did you see like any value in these billionaires going to space? Because I heard this great rant yesterday from this guy Scott Galloway, who I like sometimes. His points, and it was basically the point he was making. I was like, yeah, where is the value? Are they?
Yeah, they're not doing anything. People talk about like, oh, well, it's going to bring look at all the things that the space race in the 60s, in terms of microchips and, Velcro and Tang and whatever. Any advances that are created in this sort of new privatized space race are going to be privately owned. So, there were, Velcro was a public thing. Like, I don't think you could patent it. Do you know what I mean? Or if it was patented by, I'm saying, it's like, it's not the space race again, because all of the technological advances that are going to be made, assuming any happen, are going to be privately owned by individuals who will then theoretically own space travel.
Yeah.
How do you wrestle it back? Yeah, once you've basically given Jeff Bezos space, how do you wrestle that authority back? You can't.
This week, we also saw kind of a reversal of a lot of people who had not been touting the vaccine, specifically Republican leaders, from Ron DeSantis to Steve Scalise down in Louisiana, as well as others saying, yeah, I got vaccinated, you should too. And it's like, a lot of people are trying to figure out why now. Of course, Sean Hannity on Fox News, I don't know where he was prior to that. Tucker Carlson doesn't seem to have changed his tune, nor have a lot of other media, powerful media people on the right. But do you have what are your thoughts at all, if anything, about why they're changing their tune now, over a year into this horrific pandemic?
Well, there was some discussion online about that had to do with the stock market tanked a few days ago.
Right.
And, and I think that's a little oversimplified. I don't think it's like, oh my God, we had one bad day in Wall Street run for, all of a sudden we're going to become, we're going to start wearing Fauci ouchie buttons, which is my least favorite phrase of the last 16 months, by the way, Fauci ouchie. You
don't like it when they make things like rhyme for little kids?
Yeah, it's
infantilize the
and just like t-shirts and it's just like these people are not marquee. This is not George Clooney. This is not Spider-Man. These are scientists. Look, can we not turn everything into sort of a corny pop culture reference point? Yeah. Anyway, it's fascinating to watch, and I'm kind of surprised. There's clearly some coordination involved. I don't think it all just happened organically at once. I think that there's probably some statistics coursing through Republican media and Republican representatives that lets them know that this is going badly very quickly, and it's going badly very quickly specifically for the unvaccinated, as everybody would have been able to tell you, but people have backed themselves into this rhetorical corner. And I don't know how much it will help. I think it will help some. It's hard to not lean into the schadenfreude of it.
Yeah.
I really am trying not to. But part of me is happy just because, again, if anything was going to jog some logic and some self-preservation loose, it would have to be people dying and getting disease very rapidly because they aren't vaccinated. And so I wouldn't say I'm happy about it. I kind of liken it to, and I may have used this analogy before. It's like you're driving in your car with your wife or your friend or whatever, and the person driving misses the exit, or they go the wrong direction. They take north instead of south, and you're getting this big argument. You're going the wrong way. You're going the wrong way. Now we're going to be late, blah, blah, blah. And the other person is saying, no, I'm going the right way. Eventually you pass a sign and you are shown to be correct. You are going the wrong way. Now, are you happy about that? No, you're still going to be late. And on some level, you're even more upset that you kind of wish you were wrong. But there is a feeling of, okay, I'm not crazy here. I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I knew something was true, and now you have to admit that that's true. And so I don't know if that's quite schadenfreude, but there is a feeling of, oh, the thing we all said was going to be the case is the case. Shocking, I know. And so I don't want to get snarky or smarmy about it, but there is some feeling of morbid validation.
No, you're talking about the fine line that we try to walk so that we don't become the thing that we hate. And yeah. I think a lot of people are, you're hearing a lot of people just anecdotally seeing, I'm just fed up with it. Let them die. Let it just fuck them. And I'm hearing a lot of that from people who I think are otherwise pretty thoughtful, but it's exhausting. I mean, it's exhausting to know that there is a simple solution to a very awful problem, and we're not going to take it. That's tough, because most of the issues that we talk about and deal with and struggle with are tough. They're hard to solve.
Yeah.
And the vaccines are a miracle. And yet,
well, and there was always going to be that hardcore, whatever you call it, 20% of the country that just was flat out not going to take it. And I'm going to call them the Trump base, but they're really more the conservative base in general, circa the last 10 years, since the Tea Party, like what the conservative wing of the country has turned into. You know, and these people are the base of the base of the base. These are like the activists, the guys, the idiots who'd show up in the tri-corner hats in 2010 to the Tea Party rallies and now show up with the MAGA flags and all that. And they just couldn't run afoul of those people. The Kevin McCarthy's of the world, the Donald Trumps of the world, all the Tucker Carlsons, they cannot run afoul of those people, because even though they might only be 20% of the country, they are the activist culture in that world. They are the people that you cannot run afoul of. And so therefore, because they had leaned in, they played into those people and they, validated their insanity. They then dragged in another 15% or 20% of people who might have been convincible if Trump had just immediately been like, take the vaccine, if they hadn't tried to hedge it. And now we are where we are.
And it's a bad place. It's a terrible place to be in. It's really tough. And especially looking at, these underdeveloped countries that don't even have the vaccine, that are dying for the vaccine. And then the rich country like ours is like, no, thank you.
I have a cousin who's not vaccinated and won't get the vaccination, but coming from the sort of the left yoga hippy dippy side of things. And, I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, but apparently she's kind of big into talking about it on Facebook. And it's really difficult for me because I quite like her and I care for her quite a bit, but I almost am afraid to even get into the topic because I'm afraid I would just start screaming at her.
If you do, could you tape it for me? It's good content.
I will do my best.
It's good content.
Well, I figure every conversation is taped in some way, shape, or form now anyway. So
yeah, probably. So the other thing I definitely want to ask you about, because you are awesome to talk to about all things performing arts, especially comedy, but also music and film and TV. But I wanted to ask you what you thought about Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton this week announced that if there's mandates for his concerts, that if you have to get vaccinated, then he's just not going to do them. I forget exactly what he said, but
I don't really think Eric Clapton's touring much these days anyway. So I don't really know, but yeah, it's really sad. Not just Eric Clapton, but Van Morrison, who was I was never really a big Eric Clapton fan, but I was a big Van Morrison fan.
He's saying the same thing.
He did. What'd you say?
Yeah, go ahead. What's he saying?
Oh, well, this most famous song will be Brown Eyed Girl.
No.
Oh, I thought you said, what does he sing?
No, actually, no, I did know that. No, what's he been saying?
Oh, well, he created an entire album, an anti-lockdown album.
He did?
Yeah. And he's always been a cantankerous jackass, Van Morrison, even though he was musically brilliant. He's always been a difficult person that people generally don't like when they meet him in person. So that wasn't a total shock. With Clapton, I'm sure I grew up just kind of thinking of Eric Clapton as just this sort of classic rock dude, never really had any strong feelings about him one way or the other. Not really a particularly good songwriter, good guitar player. Most of the songs of his that were good were written by J.J. Cale or other people. But, there was an incident in the 70s where he drunkenly talked about keeping England white and praised this sort of neo-Nazi candidate, Enoch Powell, I believe his name is, and also talked about how he had basically maritally raped his wife and was kind of defending it. There's a lot of stuff that kind of would clue you in that maybe this dude was a bit of a tool. I try my best to... I wouldn't say that I separate the art from the artist. I just say that the art and the artist are inherently different. That if you didn't like Eric Clapton before, I don't think you can like him or not. Like I could stop buying an Eric Clapton. If I bought Eric Clapton albums and then he came out against vaccines, I would stop buying them because I don't want to give money to that.
Right.
But I'm not going to all of a sudden now I hate Layla. You know what I mean? It's like, there are certain songs that maybe get tainted. Like, I love Off the Wall by Michael Jackson, I'm able to listen to that and enjoy it, but like Bad or Dangerous or something like that, I can't listen to. I wasn't as big a fan of those albums, but to me, that was more in the period when he was doing all the creepy stuff. And so I associate it more with that incarnation of Michael Jackson. But as far as Clapton goes, I always kind of thought of him as just being sort of a fossilized, like boring music for boring people.
So I did want to ask you just what your thoughts were on live performance right now. You've been out there doing a lot of sets. I have not been, although I will be in Boston Monday. And I'm looking forward to that. But City Winery, tickets available in the show links. But
with JL, correct?
Yeah, JL Govan and I. Yep.
Very nice, very nice.
What's it like? Is it normal yet? Are people going to start hesitating again given this Delta variant? And
it's possible it could start to feel unnormal again. I would say for the past few weeks, it's felt relatively normal. I mean, I would not say the crowds have been as large. I think there was one or two shows I've been to that have been like sold out, but mostly they've been like 75% full on a Saturday night. And whereas 2 years ago, they would have been 100% full. But I would say generally speaking, it's felt reasonably normal. I mean, most of the clubs are checking vaccinations, or at least they should be. And so I think there is kind of a,
just asking. Just honor code?
Well, I mean, I've been to a couple of venues where they actually asked to see my card.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have mine folded up in my wallet. And so, caveat down Lower East Side, they're checking cards. I don't know how the clubs are doing it with actual patrons, if they're checking or if it's just the honor system or what. But yeah, I don't know. I would say it's felt reasonably normal. I mean, there is still kind of a bit of a buzz to doing live shows right now. I mean, it does feel there was kind of that, especially for me, because I was off the table for a couple months when everybody was kind of getting back into the swing of things. And I was kind of about maybe, I guess, 6 weeks where I wasn't performing. I still kind of get a charge out of being able to perform in a room in front of live people. And I'm hoping that doesn't go away again, because that would be super sad, but we'll see.
Final thing, what do you think about the future of mandates and also the people having their hair on fire about just the idea of mandates, whether it be schools, venues, cruise ships?
Well, we talked a little bit about this last week, I think. And well, just because my feeling is it's like, I don't think people are going back.
Oh, right. That's right.
I really don't. Maybe here in the city where people are used to kind of being inconvenienced more, I mean, everybody still wears masks on the subway, so it's like we still have our masks, so it wouldn't be that much of an adjustment to have to be wearing them inside again. But I think writ large, I don't know how bad it would have to get in the country for people to submit to going back into a lockdown again. And I don't think anybody can countenance that, including Joe Biden. Like even Joe Biden, even Fauci, or all the people in making these press conferences, like, we're not talking about lockdowns. We're not talking, we just need, common sense, wear a mask, social distance, stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I just, from just a pop psychology perspective, I just don't see people doing it a second time, especially when we feel like we did everything right the first time, and those of us who are vaccinated are not super dangerous to each other. I don't see people doing it a second time. We'll see.
Final thing. Somebody asked me in our hangout, what was my proudest career moment? And I said it was when I got to interview John Lewis. And I wanted to ask you that question. What's something that you've had happen in your career and on a high note that you're really proud of, that really made you happy, that really made you feel great? You've had an amazing career and done a lot of really impressive things and worked with a lot of impressive people.
Overstating things slightly, but
I don't think so. I mean, you have an amazing body of work. I disagree. But so what is it?
I have appeared on the John McEnroe show twice.
Outside, so, yeah, that's a given, and that's outside. I got bumped from that.
Did you? Dude, that's awful.
They really did.
Dude, yeah, for people who don't remember, for a brief blip in time, John McEnroe had the late night talk show on CNBC, you know, where you go for your late night comedy.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I did it, it was my first TV set of any kind. And, you know, they went over they vetted my material. I got there an hour early. We did a sound check. They told me where to stand, all the stuff you would assume you would do on a TV show. The second time I did it, they had already posted a 0.0 rating numerous times, which means fewer than 10,000 people in the entire country were watching. And they didn't ask me what material I was doing. They didn't confirm the day of. I showed up. The guest, the number one guest out that night was Ric Flair.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. 30 years ago. But anyway, I'll try to answer this seriously. What would be my career high point? The sad thing is I probably had all of my high points before I was in a position to understand that they were high points. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I came out of the gate, like the first big thing I did was Chappelle show. I mean, that would be the pinnacle of, you know, if I had known at the time that was going to be such a big deal in my life, I probably would have been more appreciative of it in the moment.
I can understand that, but still,
it's still to come, Pete. How does that sound?
I like it. I like it a lot. And I will let you go on that note and looking forward to whatever that may be. Thank you very much, as always, for fitting me in. I really appreciate it. I was worried we would not have a Finnegan Friday, but we made it happen, and that matters. Thank you.
Right under the wire, baby.
Thank you, bud. We did it. Got it in. Finnegan Fridays. There it is. Thank you very much for listening this week. I really greatly appreciate you. I love you. I appreciate your support. Tell your friends. Thank you so much for joining me at the Hangout. Those over 40 of you did last night. That was really fun. We had a lot of laughs. It was really, really fun. And thanks to Christian for joining me today. Thank you to all my new sponsors, veryheal.com/Pete. Check out ZocDoc.com/standup, as well as Indeed.com/standup. They're all in the show links. Please check them out if you get a chance this weekend. Go click on those links. Support the show that way as well. And we'll continue to grow along and support each other along the ride. But now it's time to wrap it up. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll talk to you Monday right here on Stand Up. Take it away, John Carroll.
I think you're driving wheels been leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up and show obedience to the voice inside. And listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up. Stand up. Got to stand up. Ooh, come on, just stand up. Everybody got to stand up in the darkest hour. Stand up, people got the power. Stand up. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Stand